Good morning, ATD family. We are back for another amazing episode. Beautiful Saturday morning on my side of the country. I'm assuming it's a beautiful day in the center of the country where Bill is located today, live from Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas.
It's Grand Slam Sam, it's Baseball Bill, and we are back for another episode. We're going to start this episode off as we always do. Baseball Bill, how are you doing on this
I'm
beautiful Saturday
I'm
morning?
ready to go. I'm ready to go around the diamond. Let's do it. Let's
We
do it.
are
There's so
jumping
much
right
stuff
into it.
today.
So we're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to talk about the hot topics at the beginning of the show so we can really get into the meat of it. Um, first thing we're going to talk about today is Trout. Mike Trout is back to doing Trout things. And when you look at what he did last year compared to how he's starting this season off, it's like night and day. Bill, what are your thoughts right now on how Mike Trout is starting the season off?
He's back to doing Trout things. That's a good way to put it. He looks good. I want him to stay healthy. He's got a lot of numbers that he's chasing, but if you look at the numbers that he's put up in 13 games, I mean, just multiply that out, and he's on pace for 60 home runs and 100 and something RBIs. And so, I mean, he's really doing well. Now, I think he'll get 35, 40 home runs this season. I think he'll end up with over 100 RBIs. Will the Angels make a splash? Well, we'll get to that in a second, but I'm happy to see him healthy and working hard and getting it done. So I'm excited about that.
Over the last couple of years, it's been the Trout Shohei show. It's been the Trout Shohei show. And now Shohei's gone, and it's kind of just back to Trout doing what he does. Do you think that this pressure of having a dynamic duo is kind of giving Trout the freedom to kind of get back to what he used to be doing rather than having this pressure of putting the mountain on top of his back?
That's funny that you asked that question because, excuse me, I've actually thought about that. But honestly, I think it's just that he's healthy. He was healthy last year and had a freak injury, right? He was healthy the year before and had another freak injury sliding in a second. He's even stealing bases. So, I mean, I think Trout is just back to playing baseball and being healthy. As long as he's healthy, he does awesome things. It's just he's had some freak injuries that have taken him away from being healthy.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, I mean, minus the 2020 season, with, the COVID season where he played the 53 games, 2021, he got injured like right, I can't remember if it was like right at the beginning or like right at the end of the season, but he only played 36 games. 2022, he got back to kind of his normal, kind of trying to ramp it back up, getting back to his normal amount, 119. And then last year, like you said, he had the injury. Do you think he's just rest? Do you think getting the extended period of rest with the injury and just having this kind of new almost meant new like organization? I mean, when you think about it, the Angels did a lot of moves this offseason beyond getting rid of Shohei, brought in new skipper, did some changes in the clubhouse. Do you think there's just a new feel there that's kind of helping him get that umph?
Yeah, I do. I do. And I like that. I he's playing, I think he's 30 or 31. He's playing like he's a kid again. And that
32
I
right now.
oh 32, okay.
Yeah.
He's playing like he's a kid again. And that's what I like to see. I mean, because at the end of the day, he's played, this is his what, 14th season in the league. Yeah, this is his 14th season in the league. He's got 1,639 hits. I would love him to finish his career between 2,500 and 3,000. I'd love him to get to 3,000. I just don't know that he gets there, but he's already got 374 home runs. So he's going to hit the 500 club with home runs. He's also possibly going to hit 3,000 hits. So, I mean, this guy's arguably anybody can say this, but he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He and Brandon Belt.
Yeah. Well, I think we could definitely say Mike Trout is, everyone talks about Shohei Ohtani being this generation's like generational player, but Mike Trout has shown since the day he stepped into the league that he is really the face of baseball. I mean, this guy has done everything under the sun between being one of the top defensive center fielders in baseball to being possibly the best contact hitter the game has ever seen.
Yeah,
Um, you know, now I want to also kind of flip it a little bit and just kind of get you into this mentality. He's in the middle. He's like you said, he's been in the league for 12 years. He's in the middle of his big 12-year contract worth $427 million. You know, there's been a lot of talk about him possibly waiving that no trade clause, putting himself on the market to be traded. Do you think he's using this as kind of
no,
like a
no,
plateau?
no. If he wanted out, he would have gotten out this last season.
Mm-hmm.
He's still got another 6 years left on that contract. You average that out. Let's just say he has 180 hits, which is 160 hits, which is about normal for him. Okay, so you go 160 hits over 6 years. So that's what 320. That's over 1,000 hits. That puts him darn near close. That puts him at 38 years old and puts him darn near close 3,000 hits. We'll put him over 500 home runs. He's having his second kid. He announced on Twitter and Instagram that he's having his second kid. He's locked in Orange County.
Yeah.
Um, Now he does spend the winter times in the Philly area, the Jersey area, but no, he's locked
Yeah. I mean, he's from New Jersey, so I asked that question because there's always that thought in my mind that, these guys are gonna try to really show out because they don't know what's coming and they might want to waive that clause. There was a lot of talk with Tatis beyond that. So, um, it's really exciting to see where Trout is and getting him back to this mode. Now, last question I'm going to ask before we move on to the next topic is do you think Trout is doing enough to carry the team through the season?
in. No,
Or do other players need to start really picking it up on their end to take them to that next level?
no, I cannot. Trout could hit 60 home runs and have 180 RBIs and bat 400, and it's still not going to be enough. You still need pitching. That division is a tough division with Texas, with Houston. Houston's not
Well,
going to stay where they're at,
yeah,
but
we'll talk about
it,
that in a minute.
yeah, it's a tough, tough, tough division. So, no, the Angels still need to pitch, and they need to win games. I mean, last night was a perfect example. They went into Boston and they manhandled Boston. So that's telling you that they've got a decent club. Yeah,
Yeah. All right. No, I love hearing, obviously, Bill, we love hearing your insight and your perspective on everything LA County down there in LA. Um, Now, the biggest topic that I think we can all agree on right now is that we're only 2.5 weeks into the season, and for some reason, these umpires are in mid-season form, and we don't mean in a good way. There, on opening day, there were over 160 bad calls made by umpires. Angel Hernandez, in the last week, I have seen him make upwards of probably 20 bad calls. Bill, what is going on with these umpires? Like, why can't we get our head wrapped around having umpires making good, legitimate calls?
we can. The problem that we now have is that little box on TV, right? That little box on TV tells us where a strike should or should not be. And we look at it and say, oh, that was a terrible call. And to be honest with you, there's games when I'm watching it and they're trying to get better. Um, but you look at it and you're like, oh, that missed the zone. 10 years ago, you didn't have that box in there, you didn't care. Some of it is very, very deliberate. Some of it is very, very deliberate. Others of it is not. I watched. So last night I was with another co-host, Big Dave, and we were at the University of Houston versus University of Texas Austin game, and he obviously had the the Astro game on his phone. He had a little cup holder, and we watched a couple of calls, and they were even without the box there, you could tell that there were balls. And I can't remember who was behind the plate, but it might have been Angel Hernandez actually. But he was ringing people up, and I just thought, hmm. And so the thing that bothers me about umpires is you're there to do a specific job, just like a fan. You and I are there to do a specific job. We buy peanuts, we buy hot dogs, we buy,
Cracker
the
Jack.
sodas, Cracker Jacks, and stuff like that. We go watch the game and we cheer on people. Our job is not to start a fight. Our job is not to be arrogant. Our job is not to run on the field. Like we have a specific job that we do. These guys have a specific job where they dictate how the game is called, right? They should never, though, insert themselves into a game, which is what I think happens a lot of times when they have these bad calls. They're inserting themselves into the game, and it becomes an issue, right?
Right. So, you know, over the years, there have been talks about robot umpires coming in,
Yeah,
keeping regular umpires. I'm kind of in a mix of like having like a mix of both. That's just my opinion. Having it where if it's like a completely egregious call, like obviously egregious, where it's like this, there's no way you could call this a strike and you call it a strike. Like
yeah,
having like having the thing come in and just automatically like trigger like a nope, bad call type of thing. They obviously figure it out. But my biggest issue is the accountability aspect. Do you think MLB and the Umpires Association and everyone that's involved with that does enough to hold these umpires accountable to doing their job to the best of their ability?
yes, but dot dot dot. So I looked up a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, what it takes to be an umpire because I thought that might be fun, right?
I would love to
And
be an umpire.
so you go to a school in January. At least this is what I saw a couple years ago. You
Mhm.
go to school in January. There's only like three schools, one in Arizona, one in, I think, here in Texas, and then one in like Florida. So
Yeah,
there's only three schools that you can go to. So you go to these three schools and you're in this umpiring group um, for like, it's like 4 weeks or 5 weeks.
yep,
And then they start you out at like a single A level bus leagues, right? Making sure that you've got enough umpires there, yada yada yada. Uh, and then you move your way up the ranks. The problem that the MLB has, once you get to AAA as an umpire, you're waiting for somebody to retire, get hurt, die, need time off, whatever. Just like any other corporation, you've got
right,
a lot of umpires. So on a Saturday like today, without, let's assume that there's no weather, okay, that means you're going to have 15 games being played. So that means you have 60 umpires out there.
right,
So you have 60 umpires. I think the league has a total of 80 umpires or 90 umpires, not very many.
yeah,
It's incredibly difficult. And so the umpire association has a union just like any other, corporation does.
right,
It's incredibly difficult to get rid of an Angel Hernandez. They have to want to retire. And so what you're seeing now is you're seeing a lot of these umpires that have been umpiring for 15, 20 years that didn't see the strike zone on TV, that, umpired before instant replay. And so they're kind of the old school. The game's changed a little bit, but it's tough, man. It's really, really tough. So are they, to answer your question, is MLB doing enough? Yes, they're doing enough within the limits. And as frustrating as we are with it, it's a corporation and you're dealing with a corporation, you're dealing with a union, you're dealing with all kinds of fun, happy garbage, we'll just say.
yeah.
And
So oh, sorry, you were saying.
no, 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 go ahead. Go ahead. I was done
So
with that.
my last question, so we can get to the grand scope of what we're looking at for baseball,
Mm-hmm.
is as the Players Association pushed back on MLB, you know, I feel as though the Umpires Association hasn't needed to push back on MLB because they seem to just fall to the wayside and just say we're going to fall within this thing. Do does MLB in the future, say next 2, 3 years, if it starts to get really bad with how these umpires go and fans start to really protest certain umpires, do you think MLB starts to push back on the Umpires Association saying you need to start holding your guys more accountable? Your guys are making bad calls. Your guys are impacting games too much. How do you see a shift in rather the instead of the association pushing back, the major corporation pushing?
So it's almost a tit for tat. So they can put in more rules, right? The MLB and the MLBPA can agree to different rules, which then will affect the umpires and the Umpires Association. But at the end of the day, at the very tail end of the day, um, it's what happens on the field. Personally, I think we've gotten too robotic. I would love to get rid of instant replay. I would love to get rid of that strike zone thing. Just go back. I mean, how many times do you see? I mean, let's be honest. How many times have you gone and looked at old videos of players getting ejected or managers getting ejected? That was part of the game where, you kicked dirt on the umpire and you were upset. And sure, it might have been a bad call or whatever. Think about Jim Joyce and the call in Detroit,
Yeah,
right? That took away a no hitter for a guy.
yeah,
Obviously, the runner was obviously out, but he got called safe. Now, you review that, you call him out, okay, but it takes the luster away from it, right? Because he had to go to review.
yeah,
So, I love the old school style game. Now, in the minor leagues, they've started using the robotic umpire where a batter can come up, one snap back can come up, look at a pitch and say, oh, no, that wasn't a strike. And look at the umpire and just say like this. And then the umpire just calls upstairs for a second and they say, nope, ball or nope, strike. And so I want to get away from that.
yeah. I do agree that like having the players start challenging calls is a little egregious, and we shouldn't be getting to that. I am just always been the advocate of have like I get certain calls going one way. I
Yeah.
understand umpires making some bad calls and it going in favor of one side of the other. But I feel as though we're starting to see more egregious calls and more like blatantly obvious calls that are like any man with two eyes and a seeing eye dog could tell that that was not the call that it should have been. And
Yeah.
those are the
And
calls that I want to get away from because
yeah.
you have bad umpires that are putting a lot of bad spotlight on great umpires that are doing everything right and making the best calls you could ask for. So, it's tough. It's a tough line to draw, I guess.
Well, I'm just looking something up as we're talking here. So Angel Hernandez is 62 years old,
So it's only a matter of time. So I'm fine with
right?
that.
Angel Hernandez is 62 years old. CB Buckner, oops, see,
Buckner.
CB Buckner 61. So you've got two of the umpires that you and I will complain about who are if they were
Probably
in the
on their
mili-
way out soon.
if they were in the military, they have 2 more years and they're forced out.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a topic we could talk about all day, but we don't have the time to talk about it because we got to talk about what's going on in baseball right now. Looking at this American League, man, the Yankees are still on fire. 10-3 right now, running the East, but the Orioles have brought up the number one prospect, the Holiday's son, Jackson. He has officially been called up to Orioles. Be prepared because that ball club is about to have an energy surge going through that club, through them. So it's going to be awesome to watch. Moving over to the Central, the Guardians are still holding strong now, taking over first place for the Tigers. But watch out, the Royals are right behind them, right behind them. This is going to be a fun division to watch now. And moving over to the American League West, this is the most crazy division I have ever seen happen right now at this early in the stage. The Astros are in last. The A's are in third, and the Angels are in second. I mean, Bill, what's going on?
I don't know. I don't know. I watch a lot of American League West baseball just because of my location. Angels are trying to fight through some pretty bad last couple of seasons. The A's are playing spoiler, but remember, this is the last time that they are. This is the last time that they're in Oakland, so it's kind of a, let's get together, let's fight for it. The Mariners, I don't know. Rangers actually are that good. They are that good. And then the Astros, do not expect that to stay the same. They're having trouble with their pitching right now, and their pitchers are not getting out of the third inning, and they're throwing a lot of pitches, and it's not awesome for them. Uh,
Well,
Good.
no, 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 no.
I was gonna say the Tigers and the Royals are doing exactly what I thought they would do. Look at what the Royals have done in their last 10 games, right? And some of those are very, very good teams that they're playing. Then, of course, the Yankees are no surprise. The Red Sox are starting to come back down to earth. Um, and so, yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
gonna
and
be fun to watch this league throughout the
yeah.
season. It's gonna be crazy. But Bill, take me through the National League, my friend.
Okay, so starting in the East, the Braves are holding tight, but it's scary without Spencer Stash. The Phillies are doing Phillies things. They're starting off very slow in hopes that they can get back to form. I saw a meme yesterday that said if anybody sees Bryce Harper, if anybody, it was like a missing meme, and anybody that sees Bryce Harper, please return him back to Citizens Bank Ballpark. Um, Apparently, Bryce hasn't started out very hot. The Mets are actually, like I told you, they're sneaky good, and they're gonna play this thing through. The Nationals are doing what the Nationals are going to do, and poor Marlins, I just don't see that turning around. It would not surprise me for the Marlins to lose 115 games this season. Now they could turn it around, but it would surprise me. Pirates are doing Pirates things. I told you, watch out for the Pirates, watch out for the Reds, watch out for the Cubs. Even though the Brewers are in first place, I do not see that lasting. And then the 2024 World Champion Los Angeles Dodgers are at the top of the division, like they're supposed to be. Sam's waving his head like the Padres and
Rolling
the
my eyes, actually. I'm just
yeah,
rolling.
shaking his head, rolling his eyes, standing up in his chair, using one finger to say hi to me,
Well,
whatever it
because
is.
if God forbid they don't win, I'm gonna replay this. I'm gonna replay in a compilation of every single time Bill said the 2024 World Champions.
I'm just
If they
putting it
lose
out
in the
there.
playoffs, it's going to
I'm
be the next episode of ATD that compilation gets played on.
I'm
So
just
I
trying
love
to
it because it's just
prognosticate
adding
it
to the
here.
compilation.
So Dodgers are doing what the Dodgers are supposed to do. The Padres and Giants played each other a lot this month, and they beat up on each other. Nobody ran away with it. And I was actually, as a Dodger fan, I was actually having fun with that because one night the Giants would win, one night the Padres would win. I was loving that. The Giants are right where they need to be in the standings. I hope they stay there the whole season. Um, and then the Rockies are doing Rocky things. So take me through the National League, Sammy.
So yeah, I'm obviously the Dodgers are doing what I think everyone expected. Um, but the Padres, D-backs, and Giants, I mean, don't these three teams are going to rotate throughout the season consistently. I do not see the Giants staying in fourth place. I don't see the Padres staying in second, and I don't see the D-backs staying in third. I think these guys are going to be so competitive throughout the season as it progressively moves forward and they start to get warmer through and warmer. They're starting to see more live pitches. They're starting to see more game action. I think that these guys are just going to keep rotating between second and fourth. Like it's going to be an up and down season for those three. Moving over to the Central, yeah. I mean, if you're not high on the Pirates right now, I don't know what is going on with you. That's the team you want to watch in the National League Central. No questions asked. And then, yes, the Mets might be sneaky good, but I don't see them sustaining. I don't. I just don't think they have enough oomph in that clubhouse from not only I mean I think they've got good fielders, but I don't see their starting rotation being stellar. I don't see their relievers being like top notch throughout consistent. you've got one of the best closers in baseball, you've got one of the best first basemen in baseball, and a top tier shortstop. But I just don't see the Mets staying consistent. But yeah, looking at this, I think this entire, I think compared to the American League, the National League looks from across the board to be a tighter league and a tighter race than the American League. My opinion.
All I have, and that's very true. All I have to say is one. Do you know what the number one is, Sam?
What?
Number one is the games that separate the Giants from the Rockies.
Oh my God. Okay, moving on. Looking at the stat leaders this year, we're gonna touch on this just real quick. Ryan McCann, leading the league in batting average currently. Hernandez leading in RBIs with 17. Tyler Glasnow, though, for the
Yep,
Dodgers, has been on
he's been
fire.
dealing. He's been dealing.
29 strikeouts, leading the league, 3 wins, tied with like 18, with like 8 other teams and 8 other people for the most wins. Um, Real quick, Bill, anyone on any of these stat leaders that is like the guy you're gonna see throughout the whole season on here?
Tyler Glasnow. Tyler
Yeah.
Glasnow. But again, Sam, it's so surprising to me how it just rises up. And so what I mean by this is if you look on this leaderboard, with the rare exception of Ryan McCann, which by the way, it's only one game separating between them and the Giants, but whatever. If you look at this leaderboard, every single player that plays that's on this leaderboard plays for a team that possibly could be playing in October. Every
Very
single one of
true.
them. And to me, that it's just we're in April and it's already rising up. You're already starting to see the numbers. Well, and Jake Berger. I mean, Miami's not going to make
That
playoffs.
was literally the other name I was about to mention, but
Yeah.
we'll talk
So
about it.
okay.
Looking at the stolen base leaders, we went up over another 140. Bryce Terang from Milwaukee leading the league with 7, but Acuna in this week has put up 6 stolen bases because he's like, if I'm not in the top 5, we got a problem.
Yeah, he
So
called me and he said, "Watch this," and
yeah,
I
he
sent him a
basically put
voicemail.
the league on notice in the last week and said, I will be leading the league in stolen bases in 2 weeks. Don't you worry about that. And
Again, look at this list. It's all people that are playing for teams that are going to compete for a spot in October.
minus possibly the Rays, but another conversation.
Am I? Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike, if you're listening to this. Me,
Yeah,
that was
sorry.
your boy Sammy that said that, not me.
Home run leaders went up almost 200 home runs. Mookie, Trout, Ozuna, and O'Neill all tied for first, with Hernandez at fifth. Again, as you mentioned, all teams that could be looking at possibly making the playoffs in the season. Angels are a toss up. We don't really know, but you know, who knows?
Yeah.
Um, and
Tyler
Bill,
O'Neill surprises me.
anything real quick you want to touch on this injury report?
I'm loving all the out for the season. No, I'm teasing. It's you mentioned something in the pregame to this stash, Garrett Cole, Shane Beaver, possibly out for the season. You have three marquee pitchers um, that are out, and in all three of those cases, those boys are 100% needed in their respective clubs.
Yes, 100%. So it's going to be interesting to watch how the pitchers progress throughout the season. We'll talk more about that next week. Bill, you put together a great podcast schedule for
Yeah,
this
it's a good
coming
schedule
week.
this week.
I mean, this schedule, you put together a lot of good ones, but this one might be one of your best,
Thank you.
if I do say so myself. I mean, I'm not on it. It would only make it better, but why don't you take me through what you got going on this week?
So, yeah, Benjamin is a Phillies fan. He's a high school kid. He's been on before. He's amazing. Alexis is an Astros fan, not Astros fan. Um,
Astor.
but she's an Astro fan. First time on the podcast. Jackson, weekly review. We're going to show you a little bit about what you get in the locker room by that. And eventually an ATD will be on there as well. Lexi, welcome to the clubhouse. She's a Mets fan. And then Gerald Sanchez, he's the announcer for the Space Cowboys. He's the play-by-play announcer at home for the Space Cowboys. Cannot wait to have that air. That's going to be a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
my spell check wasn't working this morning, and my secondary eyes weren't on top of that. So,
That's okay.
um,
That's okay.
things
If I
happen.
were only one game up on the Rockies, I'd be looking for excuses
Yeah.
too.
Um, we did, Megan's always going to be talking about autism awareness month throughout the month of April.
Yep.
Um, so, definitely make sure you check out Fridays in the league, and you definitely don't want to miss Would You Rather Wednesday with Bill. It is
No,
always a fun time. Um, if you are in the Houston Astros in the Houston area, Bill is there. He is there and he wants to see you. He wants to meet you. He wants to greet you. So make sure you stop by Angel Share after the game today to grab a drink and shake the man's hand himself, Baseball Bill. It's going to be a good time. If you haven't seen it already, make sure you go and subscribe to the Top Fan Rivalry YouTube channel. There is a fantastic contest going on right now where you could win up to $250 worth of baseball tickets to a singular game. You and a friend, maybe, who knows? But if you're the 500th and the 1,000th subscriber, you could win. So make sure you go there. Make sure you subscribe. Bill is on top of that, and he wants to give away this prize. Let me tell you, talks about it all the time. We're going to be doing a couple of new things here at ATD in the coming weeks. So you want to make sure that you're watching us, paying attention to see what's going on, because it's going to be more interactive. We want to get your input. And who knows, there could be a little surprise at the end of the season coming your way if you are watching the show. As always, make sure you are checking out topfanrivalry.com for new articles, podcasts, and merch that will be dropped on the reg. Baseball Bill, any final comments for the fans out there?
the reg is not a word that we get to use enough. We need to use that more.
I'm
Nope,
gonna try
that's
to.
it.
I'll try to throw it in there more often. I mean, all you
Let's
got to
let's
do
throw
is
it in
tell me
more.
what you tell me what you want to hear, Bill. I'll talk about it. You
Okay.
want to hear a word? I'll do it.
I want to hear the reg and I want to hear one, the separation between the Rockies and the Giants.
I want to hear many, which is what will probably be between us and the Rockies in the coming weeks.
There.
Thank you
Let's
all
hope.
so much for watching us here on ATD every Saturday morning. We appreciate you joining us, and we will see you on the field next week. Have a good week.